Okay, right. Welcome everybody. So to a rather a longer period of time has passed since our last AGM, because Equal Care has extended and changed the year-end date. So this AGM actually covers an 18-month period from April 2023 to September 2024. So yes, that's why the numbers might look a bit different in the accounts, because it covers 18 months rather than 12. I am going to do the annual report. We do not have Kate with us for this AGM. She would very much love to be here, but very sadly her partner's father died very suddenly over the weekend. So she is with him and the family now, so has not been able to join us. So I'm afraid you've got me for the 15, well, me and Vivek, luckily, so it's not all me, to do the presentation for the annual report, and then I'll hand over to Vivek for the accounts. So moving swiftly on. What happened over April 2023 to September 2024? A lot happened. At our last AGM, we were talking about the very beginning of the Lottie project. So that's the London Office of Technology and Innovation. We got nearly £100,000 in funding over the course of a year, although it actually extended beyond a year in the event. And this was to both define and pilot commons-based community care in Clapton in London. Very sadly, we haven't been able to continue that work, which was one of the hopes of the project. But of the elements that came out of it, it has been very successful, and the people that we were involved with, which was Hackney and Southwark Council and the Lottie team themselves, are pretty pleased with the results, which will be getting launched on their website in April. And so that is a playbook which is all about writing down Equal Care's model, cooperative based care, and a service specification, a cost model, and an evaluation framework. And that was all that sort of came out of this work going on over the year and a half in Clapton, London. And there are a few people here who played a huge role in that. So Adam led the project, and Vivek spent a lot of time. We don't have Luke with us, unfortunately, but he was the main project lead. We also ended up drawing the attention of a few MPs. So this is sort of a process of ongoing work, which is focused on really raising Equal Care's profile as the model has started to really take shape. So there we did receive quite a lot of interest from various members of Parliament, some front bench, some back bench. And this kind of has transpired into a bit more policy shaping work around with the Law Commission and the Treasury in anticipation of legislation in co-ops and how co-ops fund and fundraise changing in the next couple of years, and then also in relation to Equal Care's model for social care as well. We will be in a documentary next year. I don't know when that's coming out, but Mark knows, and it'll be hopefully this year or towards the back end of this year. And we were there with Suma in that documentary that we won a competition to be featured in. I've also put the Equal Care Welcome Book in there because I think it is such a thing of beauty. And this was really the first time that we've been able to really bring together and sort of pin down the model, because it has been evolving and shaping and developing and changing over the last few years. But I would say that this particular financial period was the year where we really sort of got really pinned down the way that we work. And it's all in a very beautifully illustrated and written welcome book created by Mark Sweeney. The platform also progressed, so we've got circles now on the platform. There's sociocratic roles in the platform. So for those of you who aren't aware, we use sociocracy, which is a form of decision making by consent, and we've embedded all of this into the platform itself, along with the ability to see, say, how many hours you've done or have booked over the course of the month or year. There was also some funding that we got through the Makers and Maintainers Fund, which was around supporting us to just keep our technology going. It's a really useful fund. It has unfortunately now stopped, but that was really helpful while it was live. And we also experimented with the registered manager role, which is enshrined in legislation, so not something that we can get away from. And we now have the role that is effectively a job share between 3 full-time members of the co-op who are all on this call, Manon, Jem and Jenny, and who have all been with the co-op for at least several years. And that is going well. So instead of just having it held in one impossible role for one individual to do, we have a peer supervision scheme that's been set up and launched by Amber, and it's being run by Amber and Henry, which is going really well. And then just as an indicator of how we grew, we doubled in size, which was actually a slower rate of growth than our previous financial year. So it felt slightly less extreme, but is still quite a hefty pace of growth. So you can see there those numbers, and we've also started to bring up some of our training in-house as well, which for many of us feels like a really big milestone. What went well? Obviously, I've spoken about some of this. We've attracted the attention of Cooperative Councils Innovation Network. Greenwich Council are now very, very keen on the model. We've obviously doubled over that 18 months. This is which I think is a really key achievement. We've not actually had to invest any substantive cash, I would say, into our recruitment since 2022. And by which I mean very little direct marketing, very little kind of investment into that top end of the recruitment pipeline, which a lot of agencies really struggle with. So our reputation in the Valley and in around the Valley is really quite good. So we have a lovely sort of pipeline of very high quality applicants just coming through, and that's the results in my view of that recruitment campaign work that we did in 2022 and building off that. And then we can be proud that the model is working well, and that it's now gaining a lot more sort of support, and the support structures to enable it to work are much more mature than I think when we all gathered at the AGM last time. Challenges, turnover, we still haven't broken even, although it is within incredibly tantalizing sight. And we loaded in our costs again, so we flatlined for a bit for our gross profit. Then the other side of it that's been challenging is, as a result of doubling, nobody in the co-op knows everybody else. And in terms of that sort of mutual accountability amongst teams, amongst circles, finding cover, and that has been quite a challenge, with being able to make sure that accountability is sitting kind of where it should, which is within the teams, people giving and receiving care, and then local circles where needed. And then London, I've already mentioned. Yes, the grant work stands alone as a pilot without a plane, so we don't have a route towards taking the next step with the work in London, which is a real shame. Just some headline numbers before we move on to the accounts themselves. You can see that our monthly growth average dipped a bit from the previous year, but you can see sort of how substantial the figures are so this 15 863 represents the 6 months, and then this is the 12 months. And you can see that even just from the 12 months of October 23 to September 24, we are still experiencing growth beyond that. Our turnover with care workers remains very, very low. And we are still maintaining our status as a real living wage employer with the annual salary for our employed workers, which will go up again this April. And you can see that gross profit margin has stayed largely the same, but we are targeting a 12%, which you can see we are making some progress on that to date with the 10.8% in February 2025. Okay, so headcount, yeah, we're approaching achieving nearly 100 care and support workers in Calderdale. So Equal Care is growing and emerging, I would say, from its very, very small beginnings. We've managed to maintain this chart, which I showed you all at the last AGM, which was really looking at having a very small number of workers per team, with the exception of these two absolutely huge teams up here, which are both 24 and 48 hours care and support. But you can see the vast majority of teams in Equal Care receive support from maybe one or two people. And then this is the hours per month, so you can see how we've grown over the past year and a half, and in fact since the beginning of giving support. And you can see that it has been not a hugely smooth experience over the past, particularly the last 6 months. But that is sort of the nature of the work that we're doing. So that is that. It's now over to the annual accounts, and I will share a different screen. Okay, can you see that?
Not yet.
That did not
It's
work.
not so far.
Ugh. Okay. How about that?
Yeah.
Okay. I now can't see you all, so Vivek, I'll need you to tell me when to scroll down.
Can you try and widen the so we are using the full width of your screen? Yes, thank you.
That's better.
Okay, revenue account.
So these accounts are the draft accounts, so we're just going through, trying to finalize, and it's linked to the work we do on the tax credits. So that's the thing, trying to get as much of the development costs covered in terms of that. But again, it's an 18-month versus 12-month comparison, which Emma has mentioned already. And so it's showing the slight slowing of the growth rate as we get bigger. And the big challenge is still trying to get to sustainability, i.e. being able to cover all the costs. And so the target of 12% of gross margin is what we're working towards, but every month some annual costs come in and we're still trying to get there, but we're quite close. I'm not sure, do you want to add anything? But the numbers are there. We'll go into the Q&A and see what people have say. In the balance sheet, you'll notice the aspects where, because of the R&D tax credit, we've been able to capitalize some of the costs, and therefore the profits are looking higher because we've been able to move some of the operational costs, and as part of the way in which we try and take advantage of the R&D tax credit scheme that the government has, are trying to bring those about. I'm just trying to see, maybe it'll be further down. That's right, where that comes in. So this R&D capitalization starts to make our margins look better, because we're able to capitalize some of the costs, but actually the challenge for sustainability is still there. So I don't know if you want to add anything else to that, Emma.
No, I think that's the kind of the key point here, and that's also why we can't start to repay our Pioneer shareholders yet, because we are constrained by needing to make a profit before we can start to look at kind of shareholding drawdowns and things like that.
So I think this brings out the capitalization. That's why the revenue account, share account, capital share account, and you can see the profit for the period, those numbers, the 78,000, is linked to the tax credits we're getting from the government, because that's actually allowing us to make our R&D spend on the platform stretch further effectively. And I think for the rest of it, we're going into the details, and I'm wondering whether we can cover those in terms of any Q&A.
Yeah, just to follow on to for the eagle-eyed amongst you, there is an error in these accounts. So when we make the vote, this will be subject to correcting this error, which the accountants are aware of. But yes, haven't given us an updated set of accounts just yet. So the Commons contribution that's charged here has been this is what the independent workers, what the charge on top the Equal Care Co-op makes for the invoices. But there's also another separate category of charge, which is related to how the NHS and how the local authority create their invoices, which should also actually be in this line rather than in this one. So it's the care and support services relates to Equal Care's employed workers, but this has been sort of inflated. So this number should be higher, basically, but that will be corrected in the next accounts, along with that full stop, which is painful. And this typo here should not receive, should read currently 17.5 of the workers' hourly rate, rather than 1% of the workers' hourly rate. So yeah, just to note that. And then I think, yeah, I can stop sharing there. We can go to Q&A.
Any questions about the accounts?
Amazing.
Stunned silence. Stunned silence.
I have one. I just wanted to know what R&D means. I'm a bit ignorant, sorry.
Research and development. So it's what we're treating, the way we're developing the platform is...
Sorry, was Vivek fallen silent, or was it me? Oh.
Can people hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I think that's Trevor's sound has gone funny.
So we've always invested in our platform. It's the thing that allows us to put the people who are providing care and the people who are receiving care at the center of what we do. But it's actually something that... Can you hear me, Trevor? We can hear you. Okay, anyway, I'll continue. So the government has allowed small companies like us to be able to say we're investing in our technology or the R&D, and in our case, it's the technology platform, and they are supporting us by allowing us to claim some credits back to help companies like us, and so that's what R&D stands for, and that's why it's relevant for what our financial numbers are saying. Has Jem got a hand up? Jem Powell?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Liz?
I don't know if I missed it somewhere on that on those charts, but what exactly are we claiming more back onto the tax revenue each year apart from this? Or because I just feel like there's a massive gap of stuff that we could be claiming back onto tax. Is there other stuff that we're claiming back off tax, or is it just the R&D and that's it? Check.
So the scheme is completely separate from corporation tax or anything like that. It's to be able to get some money back from what we've invested into the platform and the model development as a whole. And I think the percentages, I think, is something like 8% or 9% of everything that we've that we've spent in eligible earnings. So, and the rules changed last year, which meant that it'll be less generous, but we think it'll be something along the lines of around 50,000, maybe a bit below 50,000 for this 6 months plus 12 months period. And yeah, each time I do the application for the R&D tax credit, it does reiterate that there really aren't. We do look, and Trevor has looked recently to find any other organisations that are trying to do and build tech in this way with this design and anything even approaching this model, and it really isn't out there. So so we've been able to continue applying for this year on year, which has been very helpful.
But that's the only kind of thing we're able to get, if you like. We're loss making in terms of the our operations, and therefore the issue of corporate taxation, etc., isn't really something that's relevant right now for us. We've got losses that hopefully in the future will be something we'll be able to take. The main thing, apart from the Lottie grant and other things which require us to do additional activities, the R&D tax credits are things we're doing for our core business, and the government is trying to support companies that are investing in their intellectual property and trying to use the technology. And that's the main area in which, last year, I think it was more than 50,000. So it's become less generous, but it's been a great help. It's almost 200,000 pounds out of our expenditure on the platform, approaching probably 500,000, and it's made a big difference. I don't know if that answers your question, Liz.
Do you want me to jump back in?
Sure.
Yeah, it was just I was just seeing because I was like really looking through. I've been like excessively looking through the tax side of things a lot recently for my own tax as well, and I was just noticing that are we making the most out of trying to claim back off tax all the other stuff that we can be claiming off it as well, or are we not eligible as a company because we're a certain type of not-for-profit? Or
we try to claim for everything we can. We're still in startup mode, so actually some of the options are not there, but this has been probably the most generous. I mean, we got affected by the rise in national insurance for employers in the last budget. So, it's taken, it's been generous with one hand and it's taking from others, but those are things, that'll come out probably more in terms of the price rises and the changes in next year's accounts. Adam.
Thanks, Vivek. One question, two aspects. What's the outlook for revenue growth to get it to break even, then into surplus? And then similar, what is the outlook for growth in terms of customers, paying customers rather than workers?
We've been focusing on the Valley, particularly after the experience of the Lottie project in London, in Hackney, where we realize the rates the local authorities pay are really important. And that's a challenge that we have, because this year, Calderdale Council's increase of 6% is actually lower than the increase in the living wage, and the national insurance for our employees is a cost on top of that. And the question of, it's a balance. I'll pass over to Emma because she'll probably give a more intelligent answer to this. Is a juggling act between trying to deal with the price rises, which affect both our existing users and potential new users, and staying competitive. But we aren't changing our strategy. Do you want to add to that, Emma?
Yeah, so we are now forecast to break even in April. I really hate saying these months because, you're forever trying to predict the future and forever being wrong. But that is the current forecast, is that we will break even this April. And in terms of the number of people being supported, I think it's around 72 at the moment, maybe a bit more than that. And it's sort of a trailing figure behind the number of workers. So we're generally 20 to 30 people fewer than the number of workers that we have, simply because of the range of different levels of support that we give people. So we would expect to be breaking 100, I guess, by the summer, of the number of people that Equal Care is supporting at any one time, and that translates to roughly 8,000 hours a month. And we're currently doing 5,000.
In terms of trying to grow, we're not focusing on other areas at the moment, and that's a question I think we keep coming back to, but we need to get to sustainability first so that the future of what we're doing in Calderdale is secured. And then I think this is linked to the broader ambitions in terms of social care for the Labour government, and that's a question that they've pushed in further out in terms of time. So I don't know if we've answered your question, Adam, but that's really what I wanted to add.
That's great, thank you.
There are promising conversations occurring in Sheffield and Norwich as well, but yeah, all still very, very early days.
Any other questions? Oh, Helen.
You're muted, Helen.
Yeah, I'm just moving away from that. I just wondered, Vivek and Emma, what do you consider the major risks are to the projections that you're talking about at the moment? Are there any sort of major things? I was thinking about the projected or spring statement, whether any issues on benefits things might have an impact on this, or do you think we're on pretty predictable ground at the moment?
The single biggest risk, I think, to Equal Care is if we get swept up in gig economy legislation that comes from a Labour government, which is, I don't know how likely that is, but that's also something that we will need to be lobbying very kind of carefully about, because there is a tendency to just paint kind of any sort of gig-based work, any self-employed work as the root of all evil, but actually 2/3 of our workers actively, we're the only organisation that I'm aware of where you can choose without having had to go through a lawsuit first as to whether you want to be self-employed or employed. And our numbers have stayed pretty steady at 2/3 self-employed and 1/3 employed, and people can also switch when they want to. So in fact, this month we're having one person go one way and the other person go the other way. And it's just really interesting kind of seeing how people negotiate what's best for them when there is that opportunity to do that. But yeah, I think that is probably the top risk, because that would that would change the co-op quite substantially, I think, if we were forced to employ everybody, particularly when 2/3 of people don't actually want to be employed. Thank you very much. So yeah, there's that. And then I think the other risk is just around which is a monthly one, which is just around when people pay their invoices and being able to make sure that our timing still remains really tight on that. So yeah, there are a few. There are a few.
Adam has put something about something being announced by West Streeting, but for me, the big issue is right now, the funding for social care that's bought by the public sector is below the kind of increase in costs in terms of national living wage, real living wage, etc. And the councils are coming in below that. And so the margins of social care providers like us are being squeezed, and that actually is a really big risk factor in my mind. And hopefully there'll be something done, but right now we're just worrying about the risk. We don't have any real say in how that problem is solved. Liz?
Yeah, it's also worth noting that there's a debate in Parliament, I believe this week, to higher the personal tax allowance from 12,750 to 20k. They are in a contract till 2028, so I believe that the best that we can hope for is that they will say we're gonna change it from 2028, but it's had to get pushed to Parliament, and there is a big debate on it, so there might be some changes anyway from now till 2028. But I know that the government, they are in some contracts with things, especially with this like personal tax thing, but it'll be for anyone in general with a wage going up to 20k. Check.
Thank you. Trevor?
Yeah, if you look at the demographics of the population of the valley, the last, again, this might be out of date, but Halifax has got to be quite a densely populated area. There doesn't seem to be many clients in that space. So is there a sort of push to even out, to sort of try to benefit from more densely populated parts of the valley in terms of looking for clients?
Do you want to pick this one up, Emma? I'm not sure I know the geography of the valley very well.
We are currently sort of just getting more involved in the areas that we're in, I think, is what's happening at the moment. In fact, just last week, there was an agreement to create a Hepton store or a Tops circle in order to just negotiate some of the very specific challenges we're experiencing in Heptonstall and Blackshaw Head, which are, sort of communities unto themselves in many ways, and can be really, really difficult to cover. So we're sort of thinking. I think what's happening at the moment is we're actually going into a more detailed, looking at smaller areas, to then really double down on the enabling people who are in those areas to have autonomy around them and how the teams work in those places. But yeah, other than that, it's still very much organic growth into Halifax and then the other direction in Todd. Just a time check as well. I think we've got maybe 1 more minute.
Yeah. Thank you.
Verena.
Just a quick one on the back of what Emma just said. Do we still have a bit of a bottleneck with team starters with regards to trying to expand?
I would say yes, if it weren't for Jem, she's on the call, who's one of our new coaches, but came by way of team starting. So there's still been kind of quite a lot of focus on that. We do want to be able to train up more people and get to a state where there's just more people who just know how to do all of these things sort of sprinkled throughout the co-op. But I think that particular bottleneck, I don't know, Jen, correct me if I'm just spouting nonsense, but it sort of feels like that particular one has eased a bit.
Oh, check.
Should we move to the vote on the accounts? Because then if we could do if we could just do the vote, and then what is quite a procedural vote to not adopt to not appoint an auditor. So for those of you who think that sounds a bit dodgy, this is a very normal thing that co-ops our size and substantially above actually vote every year for their AGM. We do have independent accountants that prepare our accounts and sort of look through our numbers and things like that. But the decision not to appoint an auditor is basically not to spend it's £10,000 to £15,000 on doing our annual accounts. And yes, once we hit a certain size, the turnover levels of which I can't remember. If there are any cooperators who know this, please put it in the chat. But I think it's a turnover of between 5 and 10 million. Then at that point, it then becomes a requirement for the organisation to appoint auditors. So once that does become a requirement, then the co-op will obviously do that. But for the time being, we'd quite like to not spend £20,000 on an auditor. So hence needing to make this vote each AGM. Yeah, so Mark, would you be able to do the honours? There we go. Okay, so yeah, and then just to clarify, this is subject to the amendment of those errors that you did see in that. Where's it gone?
I'm not seeing a vote at my end either, Mark.
No?
Yeah, I just saw it pop up. And then
I saw something pop up, but nothing that allows me to vote.
I think you have to go to the activities button in the bottom right-hand corner and then choose polls.
Yeah, so everyone in the corner of your screen, you'll see a triangle, a square, and a circle. That's the activities tab. If you click that and go to, it'll either be in that menu, or if you click on polls, and that's where you'll find the polls for today's AGM. Apologies for that.
Not glaringly obvious, but there it is. Has everybody found that okay?
No, just tell me again where it is, sorry.
Right down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, there is a sort of thing that looks like a triangle above a square and a circle. You click on that. It's called activities. So when you go there, it says activities. You click on that, and then within that, you can select polls, and the poll is there.
Thank you.
Okay.
And when we're happy that everyone's found their way there, I will launch the second vote for the auditor.
18 votes so far. But 28
people online. So
I think I know Ish is not voting. Dan can't find it.
Shall
So can you?
I explain it again, or what?
Shall I do a quick screen share just to show?
Yeah, it might be
Oh,
because
that-
people are on phones as well.
Screen
So
share would be helpful.
That's a very good point. I don't know where it is on a phone.
Yeah, it's what you described isn't there on my phone.
Anybody know where to find it on a phone?
left or right, or are there any kind of options on the phone that you can find?
There's lots of
But-
options.
If not, you can just record your vote in the chat, which is yes, no, abstain.
Could
Or
you
send
please run past me again what I'm voting for?
So this is to
Adopt
receive,
the accounts.
to adopt the accounts.
To accept the accounts that have been presented.
To be honest, I don't think I understand, and I don't think I'm going to understand. This is not my wheelhouse.
Okay,
I'm abstaining.
okie doke. Is there any? So we're on 21 votes
If-
plus an abstention from Dan so far.
If
Do we
if people are not able to vote, then just put it in chat, and Mark will take
Yeah.
it into account when we document the AGM in terms of the minutes. Shall we move on to the next one?
It's 22. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, you've got 23, effectively 29 so far.
Yeah, it's not quite as obvious as it is in Zoom, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay, and for those of you who'd like to vote on the auditor resolution as well, that's now live.
So it's yes to not appoint an auditor. And we don't want to appoint an auditor. If we don't.
Yes, Marcus, voting yes would mean not having to spend £20,000.
So we would prefer it if people voted to say, no, we don't need to do
Not
it.
appoint an auditor at this point.
Oh, yes, we have no bananas. So we've got 16 so far.
So again,
17.
if people are not able to find the option to vote, then please put it in your chat so that we've got your preferences for purpose of formally documenting the AGM.
So 19 so far, plus Dan's abstained. So there's another 9. But yeah, no, 9 we don't know about yet.
How do I get to the second question in polls?
It should just appear below it.
If you scroll
Scroll
down,
down.
Helen, you'll
You
see the
scroll
second.
downwards. It's below the first one. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it now.
Very good.
Let's try.
I'm wondering whether we just do the next votes just to get this get it over with.
See that.
Let me know if you want me to make them live, but that's fine.
Yes, is that okay, everyone? If we just do the next votes are about me and Kate in Kate's absence doing the carousel of stepping down and then stepping back up again. We won't always do this, by the way. There will come a time when we step down and we stay down. But but it's not quite yet. So yeah, these are just a vote to accept reappointment, and our rules say that it needs to be the directors who have been in post for the longest. So this is why you're not seeing this for any of our newer people who you will get introduced to very soon.
So Tom wanted to say something. All right. Tom put his hand up as you.
Yeah, Tom, you're muted, so maybe you want to unmute. All right, in the chat if you're having trouble unmuting. Has everyone been able to vote? Is anyone having trouble?
Yeah, I was just going to say, if anyone's just tuning back in or have been away from the screen, the activities button in the bottom right corner of your screen is where you'll find the votes for today's AGM. So if you go to activities and then click on polls, you should be able to find all 4 of them there. But as Vivek has said already, if anyone has trouble with that, please just pop your votes in the chat and they will also be counted.
Dan, since you found a way of doing it on a mobile, do you want to share that so that it may help some other people who might be on a mobile?
Yeah, okay. So basically, it's the same place you access chat on a phone. So at the very bottom where you've got your camera and your mic and your hand up icons, you've also got the little 3 dots icon. So you tap on that and you've got a bunch of options here. You've got in-call messages, which is where you put stuff in the chat. And then right at the bottom, it says activities. And the symbol is a square and a circle, and then a triangle on top of those. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was well explained. Thank you.
Awesome. Oh, so I've actually voted in all polls now.
Well done.
Thanks, Dan.
That's right. And I understood the last 2, just not the first 2, because they're about numbers.
You got it.
Yeah.
The nature of AGMs. Loads of numbers.
So we've got 24.
So I think
Emma and 23. 1 abstention, 23 for 8. So yeah, there's a few people who haven't voted, but I think it's pretty clear what the consensus, the majority are going for.
Shall I leave the votes open or should we close?
unless there are any objections, we can close the vote now. Speak now, speak now. No, I think we can close the vote. Thank you. Okay, we are on time.
So thank you, Mark, for that, and thank you for the people doing the voting. So good. We've got some introductions to do, haven't we?
And now,
yeah.
Do you want me to share this one, Emma?
Yeah, why? I don't know. It just says introducing Verena. So, Trevor, do you want to just say a bit about, the company secretary role at this point?
Yeah, the company secretary is sort of formally responsible for making sure nobody's misbehaving and being naughty. And up to date, Adam's been the secretary and done a grand job. But Adam is stepping down, and Verena has offered to step up to become our new company secretary. And here is Verena. So yeah, thank you, Verena.
And Verena has also been appointed as an advocate member of the Purpose Circle, so Equal Cares Board.
Want me to do my little intro now?
Yeah.
Go for it. Go for it.
I've written a little bit, so hopefully it's not too boring. I'm sorry if I'm like staring at my screen reading out. So some of you might know me, some of you might not. So I'm Verena. I live in Walsden in Todd with my partner Kelly. She receives support, and we also live with our dog Pebbles, who is a very important part of the household. I'm a full-time carer for Kelly, so I currently don't work. So Kelly has a team in Todd made up of the wonderful Amy and Lindsay, which I don't think are on the call. I'm gutted, but they are wonderful. And we've also got a couple of standbys in there as well, one of them being Jenny. Hi, Jenny. So we were given the recommendation to check out Equal Care after many, many years of using various care agencies and being really, really disappointed with the lack of person-centred care. It was a constant turnover of staff, and it was just a really impersonal and unreliable service from every single agency we tried. That all pretty much changed when we moved over to Equal Care. And I still remember how positive we felt on that first meeting when we had Kate and Jenny who came to visit us at our house, and it was like a breath of fresh air. Kelly, my partner, isn't your typical cared for person. She's not elderly like your usual sort of average cared for person, which normally all agencies expect you to be. She doesn't have a terminal illness. She's just your pretty much average geeky middle-aged woman that's into gaming, writing, reading, Star Trek. She made me say that. And she struggles with a chronic illness, which means that she's always in pain and always has fatigue. So when we joined the co-op, they really took the time to understand her specific needs and not treat her like every other person. And for me, that's what really makes Equal Care what they are. So because Kelly received support, I was asked if I would like to join the Purpose Circle as an advocate member. And I am really, really proud of being on the Purpose Circle. And I hope that being part of the board, that I can be a voice for the people who are supported within the co-op. Also, just going back to what was said about the secretary role. So before I gave up work to look after Kelly full time, I was working in education for a multi-academy trust, where I actually met Adam as well, because I worked with Adam's partner, and it was actually Adam's partner that told me about Equal Care in the beginning. So nice little circle of people there. And essentially in my last job, I managed the trust board and all the governance. I provided a PA service to the CEO and the executive team. So essentially it was all the really boring stuff, all the like competency-based stuff, all the really boring admin stuff that gets done behind the scenes in any company to make sure that things run smoothly and things are done right. So hopefully I can transfer some of those skills over to the Purpose Circle. And obviously the co-op at the moment is going through a massive period of change, and I hope that being part of the Purpose Circle, that I can help with that transition period and with the co-op's continued growth. And hopefully being the secretary, I can help with that even further. And that's it from me. Thank you.
Verena, that was excellent. Thanks so much. Really good. Next introduction, Helen.
Right. Well, I'm Helen. I live in Heptonstall. I received care from Equal Care. Having had some bad experiences with other care companies, it was really nice to get involved with Equal Care, who would come out and listen to what I wanted and I wanted to do. And I know that they're taking that into account all the time. It's not that I'm being told what to do. It's sort of two-way agreement. Yes, this is what we'll do. This is what I want to do. Which seems quite different to other places where they're just told, well, we're doing this here and we're doing that here. Rather than Equal Care, it's more a team effort. And that's about it, really. Then I was asked to join the Purpose Circle. I am a solicitor, but I'm not practicing, obviously. But when I was working, I was a solicitor, and I hope I could bring some of that thought process to be able to glean out what's really important in the question. I hope I can do that, and I would be useful. Over.
Thanks, Helen. That's great. And Jenny. Who's Jenny?
Hello, thank you very much, and thank you, Helen, Serena. That was really inspirational and really lovely to hear, and lovely to see you here. And I just wanted to mention as well, Mark, we had a local government inspection, and one of the things she was really impressed about was the welcome book. She absolutely loved it. So thank you as well for that, because it is brilliant. I love it, and everyone else that in the co-ops loved it, but it actually really helped the inspection. I think partly because it's so accessible and it's so clear, which is really what we're all about. So by background, I worked as an occupational therapist for 10 years, and then I've worked probably in social care for a similar amount of time, and I've been with Equal Care from the beginning. I think I was the second person to join as a support worker, so closely followed by Dan and then Emma. So that's been really lovely that we've kind of been here through a lot of changes. I mean, unrecognisable in some ways from when there was a few of us in an office. And from August onwards, I stepped into a job share with Manon and Jem as coach, and we are hopefully stepping into the role of registered manager that we've applied to together. And I think initially I felt slightly apprehensive in that I wasn't sure how a three-way job share would actually work, and I wasn't completely clear about, well, what exactly is a coach registered manager going to look like, and how's that going to work? And actually I think it has worked really, really well. Partly, if people know us, we are very different. We are, we come from really different backgrounds, really different skill sets, which is good because, I think that's a huge strength. What we have in common is we're all fairly outspoken. We're all quite stubborn. We're all very passionate about the model. We're very rooted in the model. And so we're kind of balancing this being in a very regulated industry and needing to make sure that we basically follow those regulations and we remain CQC registered and remain good, at the same time as really holding true to that model and making sure that all the really fantastic things that have happened continue and grow and deepen according to that model. So, and we hold each other to account in doing that. So I think that three-way relationship has worked, is working really well. That's me really. I think for me, some of the really exciting things recently have been we've grown, but we're also trying to grow new circles, and we've got far more people holding hats in teams, which is a way of kind of really trying to get kind of power and accountability into teams and into areas. And the new circle as well, new circles being kind of deepened and developed is really important part of that. So there are more hat holders, more people kind of developing those roles in the organisation, which is really brilliant. And also I think as an organisation, although we're growing, we are working with more and more younger people, which is also really lovely. And we're getting a particularly strong reputation for working with people with autism, which I'm really proud of. And again, these things are often word of mouth. So it feels far more diverse than a traditional care company where it's overwhelmingly older people. We're not at all. We're very different to that. That's been really good. And I think the challenges for us are developing our training much more. We've had lots of people doing amazing training, but we are still relying on a really, really rubbish online training tool that we're quite desperate to get rid of and write our own training. That's something that Amy, who's not here because she's doing an interview, but she sent her apologies, has played a really important role in, and will continue. She's really, really grasped that and wants to both write and deliver training, which I think is going to be amazing. So that for me is really exciting. Yeah, so that's me. And the other challenge, just very quickly, I think, is as we grow bigger, kind of keeping those connections so that we get to know each other, that sense that we had at the beginning where everyone knew each other. And Kate said to me before, when at her leaving do, that she personally interviewed every person that came into the organisation. So as a registered manager, she had that connection, which we don't have when it's 90 people. So we do have to some extent, but that kind of sense of how we get those really strong local connections and just know each other and meet up and have those often informal connections feels really important. So yeah, that's me.
That's great, Jenny. Thanks very much for that. Liz.
Hi. I've got some notes on my screen, so if you see me keep looking off, then it's because of that. I started at the co-op about 3 years ago, and my workplaces that I'd worked in before were challenging behaviours in mental health houses and units. When I first joined the co-op, I had my interview with Kate as well, and I remember when one of the main things that I said in my interview was that I apologise, I have an issue with speaking out and getting told off for it and all of that. And Kate said to me, why are you apologising for that? That's what we want. And I used to think, yeah, whatever. When it happens, you'll get in trouble. We'll see how it goes. And then as time went on within the co-op, actually that what I thought was my weaknesses actually has become my greatest strength. And I speak out quite a lot, and I think it's been a bit of a challenge, especially when we've been in an institutionalized company. As people have come in, have been quite institutionalized, myself included, and to go through that growth and experience of being a certain mindset and then having to go through that while also advocating for yourself and slowly advocating for others as well, it's a big thing. I now do PMVA training, and I am part of the Purpose Circle, and I do some ombudsman cases occasionally and things like that. Check.
That's great, Liz. I think those are great introductions, and thanks for those. I think we need to ask Adam to talk about his experience, because Adam has had tremendous experience of equal care, and I think it's been quite an important figure in equal care, not much more than just being company secretary on the Purpose Circle. And I think, Adam, tell us about your experience of equal care, because we want to say thank you for everything that you've done, because we're not going to be seeing you here anymore, are we?
Well, thanks for putting me on the spot there, Trevor. I really appreciate that. So I've been with you for years, initially helping lead the first iteration of the platform, development there, and supporting Emma and Kate as leaders to do a range of roles over the years. I'm not sure I could quite categorize what they are collectively, but it's included delivering of cake, shoulder of which to cry on, and various other things. So my role kind of went into kind of the growth area, the strategy within the co-op, and I stepped down from that role a little while ago now, but remained on the Purpose Circle as kind of secretary. As my role, as my kind of other kind of interests, what I do for my living, have become a bit more kind of present. It's meant that I've not been able to continue that role, hand it over to the very capable Verena, who I will admit I always had an eye on to do this role anyway, knowing what she did. Because my wife was one of the people who she effectively supported in the leadership of that multi-academy trust. So what I like to say, because I've kind of stopped being an employee of Equal Care, part-time employee of Equal Care, and I've stepped down from the board now as well. So what I'd like to say is kind of a huge thanks to Emma and Kate in particular, Trevor as well as the rest of the Purpose Circle, but everyone I've worked with at Equal Care. It's been a wild ride. It's been an interesting ride. It's been a very different one from what I've worked in previously. And I've learned a lot and I've changed a lot over that period of time. And it's kind of prepared me for a lot of the different ways that I kind of work now and I contribute to purpose-driven businesses. So that's still very much what I do. And Equal Care are kind of like a real kind of part of my history now and kind of close to my heart. And I wish everybody collectively, because we are a co-op after all, the best success in the world, and I really hope it continues to go from strength to strength and keeps delivering. And at the end of the day, that's what it does: deliver care, the best care it possibly can, and that's it.
Thank you, Adam. And Amber. Amber wanted to speak. Where's Amber? Hello?
Hi, sorry, I'm just out on my phone, so I think I keep pressing the hand instead of the kind of response, which was, just a kind of positive thing. But
that's cool.
Yeah, I guess, just to kind of reiterate what Adam said, I've just stepped down from the Purpose Circle as well, but I'm still very much involved in the co-op through the kind of learning circle and developing the peer support program. So it's been a wonderful part of my journey as well to be part of the Purpose Circle, and I just hope to continue to support the organisation and the people within it and continue to contribute. So thank you.
Thanks, Amber. Okay. Anybody else got anything to say? Because it looks like we're at the end of the agenda. Is that not so? In which case, thank you all for attending. And thank everybody that has made a contribution. Anything else, Emma, that you can think of?
I think sort of just to clarify to members that you've heard from the new members of the Purpose Circle and the outgoing members of the Purpose Circle. So yes, Amber and Adam, and Amber, one of the founder members of the co-op. So sort of leaving the Purpose Circle this year being particularly significant. And just a huge thank you to you both, really. For the incalculable contributions that you have both made and continue to make to this co-op. The role of Jenny's role, part of the way that we're looking at the cooperative coach governance is for Jenny to be joining the Purpose Circle for a year, and for it to then sort of rotate around the coaches with the intention that each coach gets the opportunity both to be in the Purpose Circle, but then also to be in other circles, other parts of the co-op, really sort of build up that series of perspectives, I guess, on different ways in which you can be in this organisation. So just a huge thanks to everybody and all of our members for your continuing support. 2025 is going to be an exciting year, I think.
Cool.
So, yes.
Excellent.
Close the meeting.
Yep. Thank you all very much. And thanks to Mark for his doing the polls and all the fiddly bits like that. And thank you and farewell.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Great to see you all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.